How you doing there, guys? My name is Paul, and welcome to the channel. If you guys are new here, be sure to subscribe. That way you can fast travel back here anytime you like for more Division content. But today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new gear set, Strikers. And this one is actually a really interesting one. It needs a little bit of tweaking, because as it stands right now, it's about as useful as condoms for lesbians. It's just not really how much of a purpose or a place in the game, because the talent kind of fights itself. It's pretty much useless for PvP, and just so-so for PvE. So let's take a look at what this thing can have. So, we're going to scroll down a little bit. As you can see, if you got two pieces of this equipped, you get 20% enemy armor damage. Now, you have to understand that this stat only impacts the PvE side of things, NPCs, if you will. And if you have three pieces of this, drumroll please, 50% critical hit damage. This is probably the best thing on the set. It really is significant. I'll show you a little bit about the numbers and what it does here in a minute. With four pieces of this equipped, you unlock the Talent Shooter. Every consecutive hit deals 1% more damage, stacks up to 100%, missing shots drops bonus by 2%, bonus is reduced by 1% every second. So if you pay attention to the first half of that, you're like, oh yeah, look at the good news, and then they drop the bad news on you where it completely fights itself as a talent. That's not a talent. Queefing the alphabet? Now that's a talent. This thing does nothing for the game. It's so sad, and it's only usable in PvE. Let's take a look at this thing. So what is 50% crit hit damage going to do for you? Pay attention to the crit right now. I'm hitting for 24,500. By the time I put the third piece on, granting me that 50% additional, I'm hitting for about 29,000. That's huge. Obviously, it only works on crit hit shots, but that's still big nonetheless. Now, I'm going to try to define this talent as best as I can. Now, pay attention to the numbers right now. As you can see, they're barely moving, and if they move at all, it's only a few hundred. And keep in mind that this is percentage-based. That's with a marksman rifle that is supposed to chunk a lot of damage. With an SMG, 1% is only going to be like 100 or 150. That's not going to be a whole lot of damage for every stack that you get. So, let's talk a little bit about it. If you focus right underneath the grenade at the bottom of the screen, you will see the Striker logo. Every time you see that flicker red, and it will happen, it means a second has gone by. And as you just saw, I shot off intentionally missing, and it completely erased all the progress I made. Just like that. And you're probably like, wow, how is this happening? And it's because the Striker set really does fight against itself. The talent is not very good. And this is because it builds on only consecutive shots. You're punished for 2-stack removal when you miss, and you also lose one every second. If this talent actually activated and added 1% for every hit just in general, it would be a pretty decent talent. But it doesn't. It only works on consecutive shots. So every time you break the chain and you miss, not only are you losing the 2 stacks, but the follow-up shot doesn't count towards building either. So it's kind of like losing 3 stacks. It's not very useful because of that consecutive thing. So for something to be consecutive, it needs to have a starting point. So let's break this down simple. So if I shoot my first 5 shots and all 5 of them land, I'm not now at 5% damage. I'm only at 4% extra damage. And this is because the original shot hit for what it should have without any influence. It's because it was the starting point. It technically wasn't a consecutive because there wasn't one before it. So, we're going to throw a curveball. The 6th shot, I miss. So where I would have normally been at 4% damage, now I'm back at 2. And then the 7th shot hits. But from here, we don't climb to 3 because it's not a consecutive shot. I didn't land the one beforehand. I actually missed. So, it's not until the 8th shot that we start building back up, and now we're at 3%. 9th shot, 4%. But do not forget that also every second that goes by, I'm losing a percent. So as you can see, the talent is really fighting itself, and it's not very good, and it's absolutely terrible for PvP. In PvP, the enemies don't run in straight lines or sit still and let you to shoot them and build up the very small amounts that you will actually build up. In PvP, people are rolling around and running and taking turns, and you're going to be missing. You will never really build past a few percent on it, and as you can see, a few percent is only 100 to 200 damage for an SMG. That's not a lot. I mean, it's great to have additional, but it's nowhere near what the Sentries is capable of. It's not that valuable of a talent, even for PvE. I'm building up hits on these shields right now, and as you can see, that thing is almost full up. I'm at about 75% extra damage right now, and that's great, but that's only going to roughly translate to, what, 10 or 15,000? Which is nothing, because I'd be hitting 50 to 100,000 more if I had the Sentries on. And it would be activated instantly instead of built up over a long period of time. So just understand that this thing has a lot of consequences, not only for missing shots, but how much it actually declines just over time. So even when you do get some sort of progression built, and you start getting 10 or 20% stacks, which is roughly around where it hovers, by the time you move on to the next set of NPCs and start fighting a new flock of bad guys, that thing has already just completely deteriorated because the time has burnt traveling from one place to another, and you start all over from scratch. So this set just really has too many ways it fights itself. It needs a buff, friends. It honestly does. It needs to be tweaked so that the values on this thing towards earning the percentages and the stacks are worthwhile. The talent is absolutely horrible. Do not get caught wearing this 4-piece. Don't do it, guys. I don't care if the rest of yours are dirty and your wife hasn't washed them yet. Just put those smelly ass sentries on and rock it out. As for using this thing as a secondary set, so 2-piecing it with 20% enemy armor damage, that's great for incursions in PvE. 4 sentries and 2 strikers is great. 4 nomads for the solo player. 2 strikers is great, but you go beyond 3, you've gone too far. It's just 3 strikers, you're out. Punny. So, you guys have a great evening. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a thumbs up on it. Let me know you care. And subscribe if you guys are new here. Take care.